Morning. I'm going to read from this book, Letter to Bob Avakian, written by Caleb. And I found this really interesting where he talks about materialism and idealism. And he's addressing this to Bob Avakian. It starts on page 35. It's idealism versus materialism. Marxism as an ideology places itself solidly in the camp of materialists and against idealism. A debate which goes back to the ancient Greek philosophers. Does the mind create reality, or does reality create the mind? The idealist Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. The dialectical materialist Friedrich Engels said, thought is inseparable from matter that thinks. Marx's materialism was unlike that of previous materialist philosophers in that he not only argued that matter was all that existed and rejected the existence of any spiritual plane or supernatural energy. Marx argued that the matter that existed was dialectical and in a constant state of conflict and change. This view of the world as being nothing but solid existence, but this solid existence never being static and constantly evolving and changing due to clashes and contradictions, is called dialectical materialism. I admit that despite considering Marxism, Leninism, and the global communist movement to be a big part of my ideological heritage, I have broken with the purely dialectical materialist worldview. I believe in the existence of God, though not in the same sense as others. I also believe in the power of ideas, the power of the human will, the power of love and intention in altering the nature of reality. I admit I am not a pure materialist, but I will argue that neither are you. Addressing this to Bob Avakian, I see idealism not merely in the manner in which you mobilize your followers to selflessly devote themselves to political mobilization. I see idealism in many of your stated beliefs and writings. For an organization that presents itself as Marxist and specifically emphasizes atheism and materialism, I see very little interest in economics. Marx's understanding of the irrationality of capitalism is highly relevant in our time. Labor is being replaced by machines at a level previously unheard of with artificial intelligence. Marx's concepts about the workers' competition with machines, the tendency of the falling rate of profit, the problem of overproduction are all highly important and need to be widely understood. The built-in problems of a system where human beings' only value is their ability to create surplus value for an employer, a system where the means of production only function in order to maximize profit for their owners, are back with a vengeance. Yet, in the publications of the Revolutionary Communist Party and in your writings, I do not find articles bemoaning poverty amid plenty, explaining the root of the economic crisis in the tech revolution, calling for the working class to mobilize in its own economic interests in order to seize the means of production. Instead, I hear condemnations of Republicans as being racist and fascist. I hear endless talk of achieving a world without oppression, exploitation, poverty, and destruction of the environment, and a whole different way to organize society. A whole better world is possible. The economic problems of capitalism are not bemoaned, and the vision of socialism that is put forward is not one where the fundamental irrationality of production for profit is eliminated. When I open the pages, basics, or listen to speeches such as revolution, nothing less, or revolution, why it's possible, why it's necessary, and what it's all about, I hear articulated the ugly history of lynching and Jim Crow segregation. I hear articulated outrage about police brutality and the violent nature of the U.S. state apparatus. I find a crass rejection and lampooning of the jingoism and patriotism that was once much more common in the U.S. society. All of this is admirable and correct, but it is also something that any MSNBC liberal or woke social media personality could say as well. You must admit that your proclamation that there wouldn't be a U.S. imperialism in the way there is today if it weren't for the exploitation of black people under slavery, and your call on people to conceive of a world without America, without everything America stands for and everything it does in the world, could have been written by the 1619 Project of the New York Times. In the age of woke politics, there's no longer anything edgy or radical about saying you are triggered by the American flag or condemning police brutality in rhetoric laced with profanity. It is good that police brutality and racial inequality is widely acknowledged in ways it previously has not been. However, white guilt, radicalism, and campus social justice warrior virtue signaling are everywhere in U.S. society these days, and much of it has very little to do with anything Karl Marx wrote about. Though you allude to class relations, empowering the masses of people, a new economic system, your rhetoric sounds very similar to that of modern day woke moralists. Your critique of U.S. society seems to be that there are bad people who are selfish, racist, chauvinist, and cruel who run the state. Your solution laid out in your Constitution for the new socialist America and your calls on your audience to imagine a new society emphasize solving this problem by taking power and putting moral people in their place to rule according to a more ethical and rational worldview. This is idealism, not materialism. The current order is directed by bad ideas, racism, sexism, religious superstition, chauvinism, and it is to be resolved by imposing good ideas, anti-racism, science, atheism. This misses the very essence of everything Marx wrote about. Marx did not speak of good people with good ideas battling bad people with bad ideas. He spoke of economic classes struggling for power out of material interest, pushing humanity to advance toward higher modes of production. So this goes on, and I think it's a really important thing to read. So if you don't have this book, get it. And again, I think it started on page 35. So check it out. Have a great day.